Okay, YouTubers, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV, another quick game of interplanetary I Spy going on here. Now today, we're looking at this set of images from Sol 2659. And there's some interesting things in here. Not only do we have some close-up material on the ground to look at, most of which is pretty mundane, to be honest, but there's also a nice ridge line up at the back of the area here, with kind of water running down, well, what would have been water, wouldn't have lasted very long on Mars, of course, maybe a minute or two before it evaporated or boiled away in the low pressure, supposedly, right? So you can see on some of these images like this one, we've got a water stain here coming down. You can just about make it out. Let's go larger. Here we are. There we are, look. You see this all over Gale Crater, and NASA have recently admitted that there are actual pools of water on Mars now. Literally, like a day or two ago, they said that in some areas there would be temporary lakes or areas of liquid water. I'll see if I can dig up some stories on that. I'll put some links in below in the description. Links to all this stuff will be below in the description, as usual. Right, let's crack on with this. Now, what I've found in here, particularly, are two things really. There's something up on the ridge at the back here, and there's also something down below on the flatter ground in front of it, which looks like construction. Now, as I've said many times before, I do think a lot of these things are constructed. They're not completely natural. And let me show you what I found, and I'll show you the ridge line in a minute as well. Basically, there's this thing on the ground in front, which is evidence of clear concrete technology, construction technology, and we have different layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 layers of construction here. Now, any of you that work in construction or building or plastering or anything like that will recognize this as construction. Why? Because when you zoom in, you have blocks inside. You can see the blocks here. We have a layer of concrete here, and we can even see how it's being applied here. You can see the lines in it where it's been applied in a diagonal fashion. And then we have another layer of more kind of mottled and eroded concrete or plaster or whatever you want to call it on the outside. I brightened this up and enhanced it a little bit, but not very much. So we got the very outer layer here, this bit. Right? Now that is the finer outer layer. Although pitted and eroded, you can see that it's in pretty good shape, not brilliant, but this could be 1,000 years old, this could be 10,000 years old, I don't know. We don't know how long this has been here. So we've got layer 1, we've got layer 2, which is a rougher, more coarse layer of concrete here, with more coarse parts in it. You can see these parts here, they're bigger and roughly applied, okay? Then we have a fine layer, next to that, layer 3 here, okay? And you can actually see diagonal lines in it where it was applied, okay? Where this was actually plastered on, literally plastered on to the inner layer, which we have right next to it here, which is layer 4. Or I suppose you could call this layer 1, really. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it depends which way you look at it, of course, but you would obviously start with the inner layer and then layer the other parts of the construction over the top of it as it dried, or when it dried. You can see sections here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now they're not particularly even by the looks of it, and there's lots of erosion here, and some of this is kind of fallen away and cracked and broken. This could be very, very old indeed. This could be 10,000 years old, this could be 100,000 years old, it could only be 2,000 years old. It looks very much like some of the concrete kind of construction techniques we have on Earth, which you'll see on building sites, modern and ancient, going right back thousands of years to the ancient Romans and beyond. So this is construction, and it's clear to see And this is one of the best examples I've seen. Now, you may think this is mundane, but this is actually a very important find. I actually spotted this about 3 weeks ago. Let's have a look in the folder. This one here. When did I make that pan? That pan is dated to the 2nd of February 2020. So that's 3 weeks ago tomorrow. And in fact, some of it dates back a couple of days before that. So it was actually the end of January I was looking at these. And this one here, yeah, that's January the 30th. So these things date back, for me at least, about a month. So there we are. And what I've done, I've also taken some other clips of things up on the ridge. But let's look at this again very quickly, and then we'll move on to the other things that I've found. We have layer 1, which is the inner blocks to start with, okay? Inner blocks of roughly hewn kind of concrete or whatever it is. It may not be exactly the same sort of concrete we have here. I would imagine they're using the local materials so that this will have a different mineral content, but in fact may be much more easy to work with than concrete on Earth because of the high level of sulfur and other minerals in this sand and stuff. It would actually stick together more like glue, and wouldn't need a great deal of water to actually construct it. So this could have been a dry construct, or largely dry, because the sulfur would act like glue anyway, and tests have been done on reconstructions of the Mars soil in recent years, and it sticks together like glue even without water. You can squash it together, apply a bit of pressure to it, and it will stick. Now, this may have been what they've done here. They may have made the inner layer first, layer 1, which is this bit. Then, when that was in place and dry, whatever, they would have plastered over it. There's layer 2 with the diagonal striations in it, showing how it was applied with some kind of plastering tool or something. Okay, this was done in a diagonal fashion. Then we have layer 3 here, which goes to about there, which is a sort of rough concrete layer with quite large particles in it of bits of rock and God knows what else. There may even be other materials mixed in with it as well. And then we have layer 4 here, which is slightly finer on the outer layer. Okay, here, which is when you look at it more closely, we got smaller grain to it, so that's slightly finer. So we've got 4 layers of construction: 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's no possible way anyone can tell me that this is natural. This is proof of construction. And I'm going to show you some other very quick examples of construction from some other videos that I've done here from the past as well. There's this one, construction on Mars, reinforced concrete structures. This was done November 2019. Here's another example of different layers. Now this looks like metal rebar kind of, or reinforced structure underneath the concrete outer layer here. This is only a 2-layer construction, not 4 layers. Let's play that through a little bit. It should show the enhancement now. There we are. We've got what look like highly reflective metal parts inside rods or bars, which look a bit bent up and irregular, but that may be the way they make them. We don't know. And we have concrete or plaster or cement or something on the outer layer here. Now, I can't tell you exactly what material this is because we don't know. Samples would have to be taken, but I imagine it's very similar to this large block we're looking at today, right? So they've got 2 layers of construction. There we have this thing which I found years ago. This goes right back to 2016, Mars building block, eroded concrete and bones. There's all sorts of weird stuff in this image, very strange. And we have this thing, which is blatantly not just a normal rock. This is a triangular rock with these parts along the side. We've got this pattern on the side showing that it's blatantly a piece of concrete. So I've been onto this concrete construction thing on Mars for quite some time now. In fact, I've got even earlier videos that show it as well, going right back to sort of 2013 or something. So there we are as a close-up. Look at these lines here. This is not natural erosion. And anyone who says it is It's talking out a part of their anatomy which they shouldn't be, okay? Right? So there we are. I mean, it's blatantly obvious what these things are. So I will not be told that these are just natural formations. Of course, they're surrounded by what look like natural formations, a lot of these things, and a lot of them are heavily eroded like this. But you can see these lines. In fact, this looks better if you go back a bit. Let's go back a bit from that. It's too close. There we are. So I've really pushed the contrast there, but you can see that that is not a natural rock. So we've got multiple examples of these, and in fact I could sit here all day and show you hundreds of examples of blocks from previous videos and parts of construction and buildings and all sorts of things, but we won't have time for that today, unfortunately. Here are some examples of some different types of construction, which is kind of similar in a way. There's also this article here about, in Science magazine here, about Roman walls and construction that lasts much longer than modern concrete does, partly because of the mineral content of the concrete. Now these are pretty roughly made with sort of little pebbles, large pebbles and rocks, and then they're just stuck together with concrete. But these are thousands of years old. Now modern concrete doesn't last that long, and in fact it explains why here. There's a mineral called aluminum tobamorite, in other words, tobamorite, formed in the concrete, long known to give Roman concrete its strength. And what it does, it basically reacts with salt water, and then it causes a sort of chemical reaction, and then it kind of solidifies even more. So it actually gets harder and harder the longer it's in the water. Of course, it does erode, but it gets stronger over time. So, and it what makes me laugh about this is that modern scientists still can't quite work out how they did it, which is quite incredible, really. You'd have thought by now that we would have got to grips with some of this stuff, but we haven't, of course. So that was an interesting article. I won't read any of that now. You can read that. I'll put a link in the description below for you to have a look at. You can just check it out yourself. I mean, there's loads of types of construction on Earth. Obviously, we've got these massive stones at Baalbek here in Lebanon, the largest known megalithic blocks. The thing we're looking at today is nowhere near this big, but it's pretty large. As you would have seen on various programs like Ancient Aliens and stuff like that, some of these megalithic blocks are thousands of tons, and there's no possible way we can even move them now, let alone thousands of years ago. This is obvious construction, what we're looking at today, and there's no way anyone can tell me otherwise. You've got different layers, which you can clearly see here. 4 different layers of construction on a stone, well, a concrete slab, which was probably part of a building. It may have been a column, it may have been part of a dockside, it may have been something else. I can't tell you what it is exactly. We've got a ridge line at the back. There's loads of broken up material here. Now, a lot of this is concrete, I'm sure of it, but it's heavily eroded, and we've got all these lines in it coming across like this. And this is wind erosion. But that larger block, I think, is further down. Here's that, what looks like a carving. Now, there was probably a wall going right along the back of here, all the way along the back, but it's all kind of smashed and broken and collapsed. Okay, but this was it. I mean, this is absolutely smoking gun evidence here. This column or block, whatever you want to call it, is probably partly buried. There's probably quite a lot of it down here, but this is 4 levels of concrete here. We have upright, we have diagonal, we have thicker, more coarse application here, and a finer application here. Right? This is absolute evidence of a previous civilization on Mars. It doesn't get a lot better than this, really, when it comes to actual construction layers. I've seen 2-level construction, 3-level, but 4 levels. This is a better close-up here of that thing on the ridgeline at the back. Now, this was taken 2 days later. Sol 2661, and is in colour. I think some credit to Neville Thompson for this. I think there should be, because I think he did the colour pan of this, and I just took a clip from it. So credits to Neville T for this. But basically, we have a close-up of that thing, and you can actually see if we go in nice and close, it's got a very strange kind of morphology to it, but you've got a nose here, you've got an eye here, with an eyebrow sticking out, like an eyelid, I should say. You've even got pupil detail here. It's there. You've got this kind of big lip sticking out. And the chin here, or those lips, not really sure. It looks pretty badly damaged. A lot of this is broken off. But if you look carefully, what I'll do, I'll brighten this up a bit actually. Let's go a bit brighter. You can actually see the eye there, look. And you can see what look like possible teeth or construction here, concrete construction. So a lot of these, so-called carvings and statue things on Mars were probably made of concrete, or at least their equivalent of it. Material that's been mixed together and then moulded. Because you can see where some of this has fallen away, and you can see the sort of patterns of how it was applied underneath. So it's almost like it's cross-hatched. Very interesting. So were they making some of these big sculptures from concrete as well? So there was that. Now whether these are lips, I would imagine they are, but it seems to me that a lot of this is all kind of broken away here. All this here is broken off, and what we've got left is just a sort of prominent forehead here, and eyebrows, a brow ridge coming across here, and a nose here. So it's all kind of broken away. So unfortunately, this isn't one of the best examples of a statue or sculpture on Mars. I've got many, many better ones. So that was interesting. But incidentally, I'll show you some other things in the folder that are similar that I picked out as well. There's this other thing here. Now this is a kind of sphinx, a part of a sphinx, or perhaps a burial marker or gravestone. But this clearly shows two levels of construction, because we have the blue outer, finer kind of concrete application here, with the darker sort of brownish material below it. So this is a two-level construction. This isn't one-level construction. This isn't just a piece of rock that's been carved. It's a piece of rock that's been carved, and then it's had some material applied to it afterwards, which is a different colour to the inner material. So that's two-level construction. Right. And as I showed in these other videos here, this is single level. This looks like it's single level construction. This is double level construction. And we have 4-level construction with what we're looking at today, which is, I think, probably the best example. We got level 1 here, we got level 2 here, we got level 3 here, we got level 4 here. Okay? Absolutely amazing. Now, it may look mundane, it may look pretty boring, but actually, for all those people out there who've ever worked on a building site, I have a few times in my life, you will recognise this straight away. It may be very old, it may be 10,000 years old, it could be 100,000 years old, it could even be much older. This may have been buried in sand for a very long time. Until recently, the sand could have just blown away. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, it really helps. See you soon.